Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hope everyone is having a fantastic long weekend. Welcome to episode 49 of Outside the Chute. I'm your host, Randy Frame. This week's OTC Player of the Week comes to us from Fredericksburg, Virginia, as Izzy Barber takes home the weekly honors. Izzy went 10 for 13 with 3 doubles, a triple, 2 home runs, and 13 RBIs. What a fantastic week, Izzy. Great job. Best of luck the rest of the season. On to this week's guest, and we sat down and chatted with Purdue University alum, former Dallas Charge pro, and host of When the Cleats Come Off, Ashley Burkhardt. Ash had a stellar 4 years at Purdue, where she earned 3 straight all-region honors from the National Fastpitch Coaches Association. She was also a 3-time academic All-Big Ten honoree and garnered first-team All-Big Ten accolades in 2014. She was drafted into the National Pro Fastpitch League by the Dallas Charge, where she would spend 2 years before moving on to the coaching ranks and then starting her own business called Ashley Burkhardt Training. We're going to talk to Ash about getting her start in the game, her time at Purdue, of course her Ashley Burkhardt Training, which produced a fantastic podcast When the Cleats Come Off, as well as much, much more. It was an absolute joy to get to talk to Ashley about her career and the success of her training program. I'm sure big things are in store for her, and I wish Ash nothing but the best moving forward. With that being said, grab that drink, sit back, relax, cause here we go.
I got the world in my palm, lights, camera, action, it's on. I can't describe what I'm feeling, ain't never felt this freedom. I got the world in my palm, lights, camera, action, it's on. Ain't never felt this freedom. Could you say that anything goes, anything goes, anything goes, anything goes, anything goes, anything goes.
All right, here we go. Ash, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me. I've been excited about this one.
Yeah. So how are you, Ben and Arnie, making out?
Oh, man. Actually, Arnie and I just came back from the park. Apparently, they just put on the sprinklers, so it's so wet. So he's soaking wet at this point.
Oh, nice.
Needs a bath. But yeah, he's fun. Ben's good. I don't know how he puts up with us, but he's the man.
You got a big event coming up at the end of July, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's a million things coming up at the end of July, but yes, that's the big kahuna. We're finally getting married. So
right on. So in indoor, outdoor wedding, what do you got planned?
Definitely indoor. Yeah. It gets so hot. I know it's Indiana and you wouldn't think it gets hot, but yeah, my hair wouldn't be able to put up with an outdoor wedding. That's for sure.
So do you guys have any restrictions down there as far as that goes, or everything's like clear sailing right now?
Partially. So we're going to get married in a church and they have some restrictions at the moment, but we're crossing our fingers that the attendees don't have to wear masks or anything, but you just never know. But we're going to go with the flow anyway. So I think the amount of people we've invited, that's totally fine in both venues. So it should work out smoothly.
Right on. So how are the cases down there?
I love that you say down because not many people are above me.
Oh yeah, we're in Canada.
Indiana. I love it. They're hit or miss. I think right now we're pretty good, but who knows? Like in a couple weeks, it could be worse because we live right by the RV industry and that's booming at this point. So They had pretty high cases not too long ago. So I think with the vaccine, cases are going down. So
yeah, your guys' vaccine rollout is way better than here in Canada. Like it's ridiculously better. So I mean, right now in Nova Scotia, where the province I am in Canada, we for like the first part of the pandemic, we were the envy, I think, of North America. We went all summer last year, like June, July, with no cases at all.
No way.
Yeah, and then right now we're in lockdown. We've had the highest cases ever in the last 3 weeks that we've had. So we need the vaccine.
Wow. So you're not doing much.
No.
Other than recording podcasts.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad I have this to fall back on.
Yes, I'm with you.
Yeah. So you had a good couple weeks of traveling. You got to see your sister Christina finish out her senior season with the Tar Heels. How was that?
Amazing. I'm pretty blessed to be able to go and watch her play whenever I want.
Yeah.
Last year when I was coaching at Notre Dame, I didn't quite get to much. So it was really an honor to be able to go watch her play, especially her final game in Chapel Hill. And then getting to watch her play in the ACC tournament. I know it didn't work out the way we wanted, lost the first game, but no matter whether they win or lose, she's 0 for 4, 4 for 4. I am her biggest fan. I love being able to travel the world and watch her play. Right
on. Then I got to ask about those senior games. Like, they must be pretty emotional. Like, you've been through one and she was just through one. Like for anybody involved, those got to be pretty emotional.
Yeah. I would say, I think she was more emotional after her last game a couple of days ago at the ACC tournament, because it kind of it finally hit. It was like, oh my gosh, like this is the last time I'm wearing this uniform. I of course cried because I've been there. Like, I know what this feels like, but the difference, and I think, now that it's out, I can talk about it. I got to be able to play, after college. Mm-hmm. So of course I was emotional. Purdue is my love, and, I never wanted to stop playing there and representing the university, but I had also the honor of being able to continue my career. And actually, Christina, as of today, entered the transfer portal. So
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, I figured you were going to bring that up, but yeah, so I think she's very, emotional because she loves UNC. Mm-hmm. Like, she loved representing and being a Tar Heel, and she, did it for 5 years. So I was like, oh, it's a long time. Yeah. But yeah, I think she kind of just wants to venture out and try something new. So, with that, the emotions of, finishing out her season there, it was heartbreaking because she loves her team. She loves her coaches. It's just, a lot of emotions.
So how does that process work with what she's going through
Honestly,
now?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I think you just go to compliance and you say, I want to be in the transfer portal, and they sign a document and you're in. I think that's what it goes like. I don't know.
It sounds like
pretty simple. There's 300 people in it right now. So.
Yeah. But the whole portal, it sounds so like Marvel.
I know. And it's always existed, but now it's like heightened.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Well, with social media, everything's heightened now, right?
Totally. Yes.
Anyway, we have a little thing that I like to start the podcast out here with. We call it quick pitches. I'm going to throw 10 questions at you.
Okay.
Totally random. Well, some aren't, but some are. So you answer them as best you can, and we'll see how you end up.
I love it. I do this to other people on my podcast, so I'm a little nervous on the other side.
I know. This is awesome. All right, first one. Here we go. Pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
Nay.
Yes.
Not a fan.
Thank you. Best place you've ever traveled to?
Italy.
Best place to eat at Purdue?
Oh, the Triple X. Of course. The Triple X. It's not, people think it's not what it's a burger bar. So there's actually food there, I promise. Okay. The Triple X, best place in the world. Oh,
I was like, what is the Triple X? Like, that doesn't sound good. Okay.
I actually have a menu item there, so I'm never going to answer anything different.
Okay, perfect. If peanut butter wasn't called peanut butter, what would it be called?
Creamy goodness.
Okay. Best moment in your softball career?
Ooh. Getting drafted to play pro.
Okay.
That was a special day.
No doubt. What would be the coolest animal to scale up to the size of a horse?
Oh, man. I'm obsessed with tigers. Just imagine if that thing was
jumpers. Holy cow.
Like, think of the fangs on that thing.
You know what? I think I love wiener dogs. So,
oh my gosh.
Can you imagine a wiener dog?
That would be the happiest horse.
That'd be amazing. Hilarious. Oh, okay. Anyway, back to this. Best advice you could go back and tell 17-year-old Ashley?
Stop trying to please people, bro.
Okay.
Doesn't work.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
I got asked this my senior year of college, and I don't even remember what I said. Travel to wherever I want in the matter of minutes.
Time travel. I like it.
Yeah.
All right.
That'd be amazing.
If you could go back and play one game and change the outcome, which one would it be?
Can I say none of them?
Okay. Yes, absolutely.
Like, I feel like I needed that. Like I needed the loss. I needed the struggle.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some tough losses I've had, but like, I don't know, they taught me a lot. So I'd say none.
That's good. Last one. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much does Arnie love yogurt?
55.
I've seen the video. Oh, my
I was
God.
going to say, I figured you saw my Instagram reel.
It's so awesome.
His head was in that thing, and now he's too big. His head wouldn't fit in the entire thing.
He must be upset over that.
Oh, I know. He loves his yogurt. Yeah.
That's fantastic. All right. On to your career now. Let us know when and where you got your start in the game.
Oh, man. So I originally started playing baseball. And I know there's so many athletes that started the same way. I think Danielle Laurie did. There's more too. But yeah, I started with baseball because I had a bunch of neighbor friends, called my boyfriends, but I was like the only girl on the block. And I'm pretty sure they were all like signed up to play baseball. And I was like, I want to play with them. And, you know, I got along with them. I mean, we were out on the streets every night playing some sort of sport. You know, we'd take our bikes and go play. And so they were kind of like my buddies. They'd pick on me, but like I loved it. So played on that team. And I don't think I played much, to be honest. I think I sat the bench more than anything. But I played baseball. And then that same league also had softball. So I think it was the next year. And my dad always makes fun of me because sometimes my stories don't exactly match up. But from what I remember, it was the next year I started playing softball. And, you know, that's where my love of the game started. I played a few years, rec ball, loved it. I played every sport you can imagine. So I'd go from softball and then volleyball and then basketball and kind of just like all the other sports, soccer, did swimming for a second, like just played around. And then, you know, I didn't start travel ball, I think, until I was like 11 or 12. And then had the best travel team, Fort Wayne Fire. Shout out to all my girls. We just did like this reunion in Nashville. It was amazing.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah. But like, talk about where my true love started. It was around those girls. Like that team. I think we were together for like 6 years, maybe, like virtually no turnover. We just loved playing together and competing. And, you know, we worked our way up to get invited to Colorado. Like we were one of the inaugural teams for the Fire. And we like worked our way up to go to showcases, and we just had so much fun. We'd like rent houses and cabins in Colorado and all hang out and then play during the day and go hike at night. Like it was the best.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's where like, I think my true love started with that team. And then, you know, we got to a point where half of us wanted to move on and, you know, play in college and some didn't. And so it's kind of where I moved to a more renowned travel team here in Indiana, and then started really traveling the world, to play against and in front of the best. So yeah, that's where it started, and that's kind of where it led me. But I know I probably talked a little too much about that.
No,
story.
That's all right. Like, did you have an instant love for it, or was there a process of growing into it, or you absolutely loved it right away?
Know, I really loved softball and basketball the same, even volleyball.
Right.
Like those were my big three. And then going into high school, I played basketball and softball, loved both the same going into high school, played travel ball, and then I played travel basketball too. And then I kind of had like this confrontation with not a great coach that I had in basketball. And it kind of like made me lose my love for basketball. And then all of a sudden I was like, well, you know, I do love softball. And so I started putting more time into it and just loved it even more. So yeah, I didn't always love it the most. That's for sure.
Right on. Now, can you remember what age you were at when you were like, I want to play college ball?
Yes, I almost know it to the day. So my freshman year in high school, there was a girl, Andrea Filler. I'm just going to drop her name. She actually is playing potentially for Team Italy and competing in the Olympics this year. We got a long history, but yeah, she committed to play at Boston College my freshman year, and we had both made varsity as freshmen. And when she committed, she was better than me, like straight up. She was a better athlete overall. And, in my head, I'm like, if Andrea can do this, like, I don't think I'm that far off. So we started adopting some of the things that she was doing. Like she was traveling to lessons. We started doing that. She also played for a pretty renowned team in Indiana as well. And then we ended up playing on the other big team together later before we left for college. But I kind of like followed her footsteps and was like, I think I can do this. And that was also kind of the time where the Fort Wayne Fire, we were kind of breaking up a little bit. So she kind of pushed me to be like, okay, I think I can do this. And then, training went gun ho with it. Dad knew my dream. It was like, we're going to do this and we're going to figure this out. So, that's kind of like when I knew I was capable. I didn't know how far I was going to go, obviously, but I was like, if I just show up every day, figure out how I'm going to get 1% better, just like kind of see where the cards take me. I ended up getting offers to multiple schools in the Midwest and the rest is history. So that's kind of where I got really excited about it and started putting in the work.
Now you talk about putting in the work and being able to do all these things. How big a role did your parents play in this?
Oh, the biggest.
Yeah.
I get emotional today. I'm 28. I think I was like 25 and I finally understood what the heck they did for me to be able to achieve my dream. Like the amount of money that it cost. Think about the multiple hotel rooms, like the travel, like we lived and breathed travel sports for a long time.
Yeah. And
then I have two younger sisters who also are playing college sports. And so I just, they don't quite get it yet. I mean, they're understanding a little bit more, but like it took me until 25 to fully realize everything that they did. Like when I didn't want to go hit in the backyard and Dad was like, what's your goal? And I was like, play D1. And he was like, let's go. And then every time I'd never regret it. I'd never regret going out in the backyard and working on my game. And, of course, like I was probably a trouble child sometimes. And my dad was like, I know specifically one time I was pitching. I learned how to pitch because we didn't have a pitcher and I didn't want to lose. So we figured this out. And like Dad and I would spend so many hours figuring out how to pitch. I remember we were in a gym, St. Charles gym, and his back was up against the concrete wall and I threw it over his head and he stood up and it came and hit the back of his head. Oh my gosh. I don't think I've ever seen my dad get so mad in his life.
Oh, wow.
And I get it now.
Yeah.
Like the amount of punches to the gut they've had to endure to like help me live out my dream is just crazy. My mom and I were bonding over it the other day. And we cried about it just because of like, geez, so much. I'm like, man, parenthood, I think I'm ready, but I'm not. Yeah. So give me some time.
Yeah. Oh, your mom was awesome on that scooter, by the way. Like that.
My mom, oh my gosh, we had the best time in Louisville. We just took those Lime scooters and just went up and it was great. It was amazing.
That's fantastic. It looked like a ton of fun though. It looked like a lot of fun.
My mom knows how to have a ton of fun. Shout out to Jen Burkhardt.
Awesome.
She's the best.
Awesome. So take us through your recruiting process. Like, what's the decision behind what, like, was it always Purdue or were there other schools involved?
No, it wasn't always Purdue. We actually grew up massive Notre Dame fans. I remember going to games when I was little. We tailgate all the time. It's about 2 hours from my house in Fort Wayne. And our whole family were like big Notre Dame fans. So like the big dream was Notre Dame. I was like, this is where I want to go. I'd love to compete here. I think I can do it. Like if I work hard enough. And when the recruiting process started and I started getting invited to camps, like I'd get invited to Notre Dame. I actually they have like hitting clinics every week. I actually went to those every week. Like we were gun ho on this. We were like, we're going to do this. Went to their camps. But then we were advised to like, don't just go to one camp. Like you can't just put all your eggs in one basket. So we went to a bunch of different camps. Purdue was one of them. I remember going to like a Miami of Ohio camp, Michigan State, so many other ones, just to like kind of put my face out there a little bit.
Yeah.
And, once coaches could contact, I got, a few contacts, like Boston University was one, just super random. Michigan State, Ball State, not IU, which is funny, but Purdue, they were kind of like the bigger ones that were on our radar. We did contact Notre Dame, but it was kind of like man, like we already have someone in your spot, kind of like not really a great fit. And I'm like, dang it. But I truly believe that because I wanted Notre Dame so bad, all these other schools were able to pop up in my radar.
Right.
Because I worked so hard for that one dream. Which is what I tell my athletes now. I'm like, dude, like you can want to play at UCLA. You just got to know what it's going to take to get there, because I'm telling you, UCLA is going to pop up maybe, but like, well, guess what else is going to pop up? Like all these other great schools. So that's kind of how it went for me. So Purdue started knocking, went to their camp some more. I think I ended up going to like 2 of their camps. They started coming to my tournaments. That was by the time I was playing with the Indiana Magic Gold, which is the higher level team in the Midwest. And so competed in Colorado, competed in Florida, competed in California. That was fun. All the big places. And I would see, you know, Coach Marr would be there a lot, like watching, which was the head coach at Purdue at the time.
Right.
And other schools were there. And so I got like 2 pretty good offers from Purdue, and then Michigan State was like another big one. Ball State was the first though. Shout out to them. But yeah, it was really kind of like between Purdue and Michigan State. So Dad and I spent a lot of time like taking notes, like pros and cons, and they were so close. But then once I visited and actually had my official visits, I'm like, Michigan State is so big, like so big. And Purdue is huge, but like, I don't know, Michigan State just seemed too big for me. And then Purdue, like just the tradition, like the fact that John Wooden has his leadership academy. I met Kathy Wright-Eager, who was my leadership advisor, and I was literally sold on that visit. So that experience is what led me to be like, I'm ready. Purdue, this is where I want to be.
Nice. So what do you remember about arriving there freshman year?
Getting all the gear and not wanting to take it off. Like I wanted everybody to know I was an athlete. And this is funny because like we all did this. We were like, you know, kid in a candy store. We just got all these t-shirts. We got a grout fit, you know, like a sweatshirt and pants that were gray. I'd wear it everywhere. I was just so proud to like wear Purdue and like represent the university that I was like, I think that's like the first thing in my mind was like, I love this place. I'm going to show everybody that I play softball. So they come and watch us in the spring. Like, that's what I first remember is walking on campus and wearing my gear.
That's all. There's nothing better than getting new swag though.
No.
Oh, it's so awesome.
And it was like nothing compared to what they get now, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it really felt like living the dream.
So what, when you guys first started that freshman season, actually I went through I do extensive research when I do this stuff. So
I love it.
When the first few games of the season, I noticed like you were either getting in as a pinch hitter or you weren't playing up until game 7 of that season. Yeah. You got in against Niagara. You went 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs. And it seemed like after that, nothing like you were in full time. Can you tell us about leading up to, you know, what that game, I guess, and, you know, kind of the hardships? Were you hurt or was it just?
Yeah. So I'm going to give you a little curveball.
Okay.
I was the team's starting second baseman going into the spring.
Right.
And a month prior to season, I got mono.
Oh, okay.
And it's like mono is like the one where you cannot physically move your body more than just walking for like 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually lost. So let's be real. I gained a lot of weight going into my fall. So like muscle mass and of course, you know, dining quartz. I gained a lot of weight going into there. And then once I got mono, I ended up losing 16 pounds and that included a lot of my muscle. So my, you know, trainers and my strength coach were like, you are not physically going to be able to play right away. Like you cannot start. And I was devastated. I was like, are you kidding me? Like I've worked so hard. Like we've had so many 6 a.m. workouts. Like I'm ready to just freaking ball out.
Yeah.
And I go on the first few trips and I'm like, I can't even do anything. Like I was eating up inside. I was like, this sucks. And I didn't even know I went 2 for 4 that game. But
with 3 RBIs, with 3 RBIs.
I was just hungry, I was like, I worked so hard and then I get here and now they're telling me I can't play.
Yeah.
Like I specifically remember Coach Earls, who's the strength and conditioning coach at Penn State now. He's still one of my great buddies. He was like, Ash, like you can't, do the run with the team today. And we were going to do 300-yard shuttles are the worst thing in the world. Mm-hmm. And they're so hard where you're like, I hate seeing my team suffer and I can't be there. I can't, do it with them. And then Coach Earls was like, well, you can do half of it. And I was like, no, like I'm doing all of it. He's like, no, you're doing half of it. And it was just like this back and forth. I'm like, okay, all right, I'll just do half. But yeah, that was awful. But I was in, like I said, I was hungry. As soon as I got to be able to do things, I was like, I'm going to go all out because I haven't been here for like a whole month. So let's go.
So what was the biggest adjustment that freshman season?
Just the game. It gets faster. Every level you get to, the game is faster. Mm-hmm. So I think, one huge adjustment for me was I was actually more of an outfielder than anything going into Purdue. And during the fall, I had trained in the outfield and the infield because they were looking for a second baseman. And I had played shortstop in high school, so it's not like I've never played it. But in travel ball, up until that point, I was an outfielder. So being moved from the outfield, I didn't even play a single game in the outfield in college, which kind of breaks my heart. I love the outfield.
Really?
But it's what my team needed. So that adjustment was probably huge. And also the speed of play, learning a new position as a freshman, it's kind of hard. But you just kind of roll with the punches and figure it out.
Yeah. So did you end up playing first base? Like
I did.
Yeah.
I did. My last 2 seasons.
Oh,
I was
okay.
at first.
Okay.
I loved first. Oh my gosh. I didn't know how much I was going to love it.
Really?
But yes. That's the thing. Like I did not get tall until my junior year of high school. Like I was 5 foot going into high school. And then all of a sudden I'm almost 6 foot and they're like, you're the tallest second baseman we've ever had.
We're throwing you on first.
I know. Well, that's funny.
Later on.
Yeah. But I really loved first. I had this fun position where my best friend was our star pitcher. She's actually my maid of honor at my wedding. And like we read each other so well to where I was kind of like, they say normally the catcher is the one who knows what to say.
Yeah.
Like our catchers had great relationships with our pitchers, but I was always like that one where I was like, shoes off. And I go like tell her that her shoes untied or something and joke around. But I loved that I could, be right next to Lil and get some outs with her. But yeah, there's also a leadership position in first that I never knew existed. I loved it.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing, I've pitched my entire life. Like I've been a pitcher for 37 years now. So, wow. And every once in a while, like with the league that I'm still playing in, there's this games where we don't have as many players, and sometimes I'll get thrown on first base because and I'm like, what foot do I put on the bag? Like, it's so confusing.
Yeah. When I moved to first, it was like a whole winter of just figuring out footwork, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
And knowing when to extend and when to reach and when to get off the bag and when to not go towards second base.
Yes.
That was so hard. Any new position, it takes time, but like literally it was just every day we do the same drills, picks. And I did not learn how to do the splits, but I did it once and then was able to do it more often. I don't know I'm not that flexible, but figured it out.
If I went down, I would not be getting back up. I can tell you that much.
Nope, that'd be it. That's so cool that you still play though. That's amazing.
Still going, still pitching at 43 years of age. And I really don't foresee me slowing down right now. So
that's incredible. Fast pitch?
Yep. Fast pitch.
Do you do like a slingshot pitch or a full windmill?
Full windmill.
So I ask you that, I'm not trying to age you at all, but my grandpa actually, he played softball, fast pitch softball. And, now that I think about it, he probably was an influence on me to play the sport, through my dad probably, but he actually had like a slingshot pitch and he's from Pennsylvania and softball was like big out there.
Yep.
And he that's like the first pitch I actually learned was that slingshot.
Yeah. Well, actually, one of the guys that we interviewed here that's on the U.S. men's national team here a couple weeks ago, he went to a tournament down in Florida, I think it was last weekend, and that's the style they were playing. They were playing like a slingshot. I was like, I didn't know that still existed.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Man, I wish I knew the name, but there was like an absolute legend out of Allentown, Pennsylvania, and he just passed away this year. But I actually had a pitching lesson with him when I was little. He was like world-renowned pitcher.
Eddie Feener?
Shoot. No.
Oh, okay. Because that's the king of the sport. So
I don't think it was him. Man, I really wish I remembered his name. This makes me feel like an awful person. But yeah, my grandpa was so excited to take me to go see him. I'm like, I don't know who this man is. Yeah, but that was fun. That's another memory that I don't think I've ever shared before.
Right on. Well, that's good info to have on here. So anyway, so you'd have 3 more amazing years at Purdue. Are there some memories or events that, really stick out to you?
Yeah. Junior year, we played Michigan at home. They were ranked number 4 in the nation, and we had no right beating them. Ended up beating them, I think, by a run or 2. I don't even remember. I think I hit a triple in that game, but I thought it was a home run until someone just corrected me recently. Felt like a home run. But yeah, that game totally sticks out to me because like our celebration at the end was just like, holy crap, we did it.
Yeah.
And then literally that was a midweek doubleheader. And like the next game, they beat us 11-1.
Oh, wow.
So we lived it out and we were like, oh crap, I think we got too excited.
Yeah, nothing like getting snapped back to reality. What?
Yeah. So that was super significant. Another game, and this is actually a televised game, which I don't want to age myself, but back then, like very rarely were we on the Big Ten Network.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a game where I think we won 1-0, and it was against Illinois at home. And 1-0 was my home run, and I literally hit it over our scoreboard, which was like a really tall scoreboard at the time.
Nice.
But it also happened to be the game where I stole second, and the catcher threw it so far up the line that it one-hopped and hit me straight in the face, in the mouth.
Ooh.
And I kid you not, it looked like I had a jar of chew in my mouth, like underneath my jaw for like a whole week. And I was safe, obviously, because it hit me in the face and probably bounced a million miles away. I thought I lost my teeth. Like I was like, I don't have teeth.
Yeah.
My mom was like, you screamed so loud. I'm like, yeah, I was shocked. Like I saw it coming at me at the corner of my eye and I couldn't do anything about it. But then that post-game interview, I'm like, of course I'm the one being interviewed with my chew in my mouth. Like it was not pretty. I had also like seams on my face. That was like a battle scar. It was just a crazy game.
Goes to show what kind of warrior you are though. What?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I stayed in. I mean, there are so many good memories. I'm trying to think of, there's another one where, we were playing like Louisiana Lafayette and they were ranked like top 10. And again, like who are we to go out and like try to beat a team? But I remember having like an in the park home run. And, as I'm sliding into bases, I normally try to read the receiver to see like where I'm going to slide. And she made this like last second move that made me actually go in head first, which I have never done at home plate ever in my life. But I'm like, the only way I'm going to get there is if I do this. And my hand ended up being safe, but my hand ended up hitting the catcher's shin. And like, I swear I broke my thumb. And I still, to this day, I think it's broken, but like they said, it gave me x-rays. They're like, it's not broken. I'm like, you sure? But I ended up wearing this like thumb cast, like the rest of the season, even while I'm playing defense. Never sat out a game. Like it was literally like, I don't know how the heck I did this, but.
And the training staff's like, Ashley, your thumb's not broken. What are you doing?
Like, yeah, stop trying so hard. Jeez. Yeah. And then of course, like the top memories, like when I got drafted, that was unreal. We were playing Ball State midweek game the day before. Coach Chute called me into her office and she's just like, hey, so like you could be a potential draft pick tomorrow. Just wanted to let you know, like, are you in? Would you play if you got drafted? I was like, yeah. But then I was like, you're lying. That's not a thing. Like me, of all people, we've never been to a regional. Like all these girls getting drafted are probably playing in the Women's College World Series. And I'm like, what, me? And so, we played Ball State, and I mean, just like any player that's like really into a game, like you don't think about that stuff while you're in the midst of a game. And it happened to be like a back and forth. Like we'd hit a home run, they'd hit a home run. I think we ended up winning like 9-8 or something. And again, I probably got that number wrong. But it was just so intense. Ended up being a fun freaking game. And after the game, we're singing our fight song to the stands, and my dad like looks at me, and he does his whistle. Like he has a special whistle. Yeah. And he did the whistle, and then he was like, "You were drafted." And then he held up his hands, 15. And then I don't even remember anything after that. Like it was just, it's all a blur. I was like, "What? Are you kidding me?" I'm bawling my eyes out.
Actually, that was the lead into my next question. I think April 5th was the actual date, but
I'm glad you remember that.
I was going to ask you about getting drafted by the Dallas Charge of the National Pro Fastpitch League. And you just pretty much said it all. I was going to say like that had to be a great feeling, you know, knowing that you'd still have the opportunity to play at a very high level.
Yeah. You know, I always say this, I'm like, it was never a dream of mine. Like, I didn't really think that was in the cards for me, you know? So you don't really, I never had the dream to play in it. But I think the fact that I just gave my all to this game and I really just wanted to be as good as I possibly could kind of led me to that. So man, it's crazy when dreams happen and you don't plan them.
So how was your time there?
It was, you know, not what I thought.
Right.
I could probably talk about this for a while, but so I was one of the first to get on campus. Campus. It's not a school. It's just
what?
Dallas.
It's a school?
I was one of the first to get to Dallas. You know, we had practice literally like the week after my last game. So we were just, it's like I had a week to pack. I had a week to move out of Purdue and then, you know, go over to Dallas. And it was just so fast. And so I was practicing with, you know, the few people that weren't playing in college, because we were waiting on half of the other team or the rest of the team to finish their seasons before they'd come and join us.
Right.
So we trained for about 2 or 3 weeks before we even had our first game, I think. And it was fun, you know, getting to hang out with, you know, All-Americans and, you know, people who won national titles, and, it was just fun. I soaked it in. But then my coach kind of made me feel like I didn't really fit in. And honestly, like, I'm kind of glad she did, because I learned a lot about myself in this process. Right. But I really started feeling like I didn't really belong. And I was like, you know, who am I to be here? You know, middle of the Big Ten, you know, never made it to a regional. Like, I just had all these inner doubts in my mind for like a whole season and a half. I didn't really, you know, I had played and started, you know, I started pretty much as soon as I could at Purdue and was always a starter, and, you know, didn't really get a whole lot of opportunities. And when I did, of course, it was against Monica Abbott, who is the best pitcher in the world. You know, so my opportunities were slim and they were tough ones. So, you know, I was like, this is just how it's going to be. I'm just going to pinch run for Lauren Hager. And this is what it's going to be, you know? And I tried to make the most of it, but, you know, I really, really struggled mentally during that time. But it was literally, we're playing Team USA in my second season, and it's not a game that counts in our record. So I got to start that game. And I don't know, just some sort of light clicked for me. And I was like, dude, Kaylani Ricketts is on the mound. Let's crush her. Like, let's go. Like, let's game on. This is Team USA I'm playing. Like, nobody gets this opportunity. Like, let's go. So I ended up going, I think 2 for 3 and a stolen base in that game. And I was finally like, nice. I'm back. Nice. I'm back. Like, this is Ashley playing her game. And like, I hadn't done that for a whole year and a half. And it was really, that was kind of the tipping point for me. Then after that, it's like, you know, still I strike out just like everybody else, but like, it doesn't really eat me up as much. And I'm getting better opportunities now. I'm actually, you know, a starter more often and trusted more often. And sure, of course, you know, some games I don't start, but it didn't really affect me as much because I knew what I was capable of. And when I was going to be given the opportunity, I was going to do my best. Then I finally started hitting home runs, finally starting to play good defense. Like, I was just back, you know? And so it was, you know, half of one season I got to, you know, be me again. But, it was that winter that I had a 2-year contract. So, and and we were bought out by, I think, another organization or another GM. And they said that they weren't going to renew my contract that winter. And I kind of was just like, all right, well, that was it. It was fun while it lasted. And it was actually like, no shame, no hate, but like, it was like a 2-sentence email.
Wow.
And it was like, well, you're not coming back. And I was like, okay.
Wow.
So yeah, that was a way to end a career. I could have tried out for other teams, but I don't know. I think I was just like ready.
Yeah.
I was ready to move on. Coached a little bit. I coached at Purdue during my 2 seasons, and then built my own business right after that and started doing a bunch of lessons and kind of just grew it from the ground up.
Yeah. Well, I was going to jump into the coaching part of it. You went to Purdue, and then you ended up going to Notre Dame. How did you enjoy the coaching aspect of it?
To be honest, at Purdue, I was coaching my best friends, including my maid of honor, Lily, which meant that we couldn't be friends.
Yeah, that'd be tough.
It's kind of like that line you can't cross.
Yeah.
So honestly, didn't really like it a whole lot.
Yeah.
It was really cool though. I worked a lot with the base runners, and, was really involved through a lot of BP. It was kind of cool to see like how the ship runs from the other side. I learned a ton. But yeah, like the coaching your best friend part, it's never easy, but that was a lot. I learned a ton about myself. And then I tried a third time to coach in college, and I went and coached at Notre Dame and loved it. I learned so much from Deanna, Lizzie, and Chris. Chris was actually the one who used to give me the hitting workshops. She was always working them. And so she was working with me since I was little. So it was pretty full circle to be able to join that staff. But that happened to be the COVID year, which meant that, there was a dead period for like a year. And, the athletes that I feel like I impacted the most, my young ones, I couldn't work with them because I was a college coach. So that's kind of where I pulled myself out of the college coaching realm and went all in on the business. And I think I learned through those 3 years of college coaching that I'd much rather be here. So, but I did learn so much from every single one of those people I worked under.
Nice. You're making my segues so easy because you're transitioning.
It's like I'm a podcaster.
You would think. So let's talk about Ashley Burkhardt Training. So where did this all originate from?
Okay. So after I finished my pro career, I was like, what am I going to do with my life? I had studied applied exercise and health in school. So I was working in the weight room with teams. And those hours of like waking up at 4 a.m. to work with teams was just like, I was like, nah, that's not very sustainable for me. But I did really enjoy the coaching aspect, getting people pumped to like go lift some heavy weight. I still love lifting to this day. And I loved learning about the kinesiology of the body and like what impacts the swing. But actually what I think I learned not the most from, but the class that I loved the most at Purdue was sports psychology, which is a class that I took inside of HR. So, different HR or HK. Sorry. I was actually thinking health and kinesiology. So
okay.
HK, not HR. But that sports psych class, it really changed the game for me when I was a student athlete at Purdue, and I applied those things like meditation, breath work, journaling, all of these different things to my own game. And that's probably why I hit 400 my senior year. And so that aspect, that mental aspect of the game is something that I really, really loved and enjoyed. So I started giving lessons and then realized that lessons weren't just about hitting. I was like, lessons are really about belief and confidence and, believing that the swing that you work so hard on can actually be like implemented into a game if you really put the work into it. So I felt like I was like working in the realm of, lessons, but also like more than that for a long period of time. And I was like, I love this. And by the way, nobody's talking about mental game and hitting lessons. So let's grow this thing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I just started doing lessons. I was like, I love to do this. I moved up to South Bend, actually to move in with Ben Marvin. And I found a facility here, gave lessons here like 5 times a week, 4 hours a night. Holy crap. Definitely not sustainable either.
Wow.
I've cut it down a lot, but just for my own sanity. but I just loved this and I grew my, audience here. But then I got into a point where I was just like, I feel like I could impact more people.
Yeah.
So, when I started doing lessons, I started an LLC just to kind of like have my own quote unquote business, but didn't really know what that meant. And then, I started working with the Package Deal, who do clinics all over the country. And I kind of grew my voice with them. And, I realized I could impact more and started doing virtual training, worked with athletes virtually. And, I was like, man, I can really work with a lot of people. And, it's funny we say this because I do virtual lessons still, and I work with a girl from Canada.
Oh, nice.
And it's like, it's the coolest thing to be able to like have a video call with someone who lives up there and just wants to become the best version of her and kind of mentoring her through her process. But I do that with athletes all over the country now. And I think it's the coolest gig.
Nice. So how many groups do you work with? Is there do you have them sectioned off or?
That's a great question. I actually work with everyone. So I literally just picked up a slapper who's 8 years old this year. And I also work with athletes that are going into college and some that are actually in college.
Okay.
So, in their off season. So it's like kind of like jump around everywhere. But I think that's the beauty of what I do. It's like I can thoroughly communicate to an 8-year-old and have her execute, and also know how to talk to an 18-year-old, which is obviously going to be extremely different. But I think that's a small gift that I have. So I work with kind of everybody and anybody.
Yeah. So
that wants it.
How satisfying is it to see an athlete progress with what you're providing them?
Oh my gosh, it's the world. And that's the thing. They always want to give me credit. I'm like, screw it, man. Like, you did this. Like, you literally have put in the work. I've just given you the little roadmap, but like, it's not without your work that this happens, and it's really special to be able to, get that text like, hey, went 4 for 4, hit 3 home runs. Like, whoa, that's amazing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. This girl out here is just blowing it up, but yeah, it's really cool, that they want to reach out to me, when these things happen. And I'm like, dude, it's you. It's totally you. But yeah, about to get emotional over here, but
that's gotta be an awesome feeling though.
It's kind of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to ask about When the Cleats Come Off, which is your podcast.
Yeah.
So did that become like a branch of your whole business after you got started, or did you initially have this in your head when you began everything?
Oh my gosh. Great question. So I started my business about 4, almost 5 years ago, but the podcast was just launched last year. And I didn't even know what a podcast was until about 2 years ago. So I was like, what is this? It's so lame. Like, okay, no offense to Ben Marvin, but he was like playing like a golf podcast. I'm like, this is so boring. But then I started like listening to entrepreneurship podcasts, like Lewis House's podcast, I freaking loved. And I was like every day listening to a podcast.
Yep.
And I'm like, I hate reading. I still don't love it. I'm trying to work on it because I know how much books can help me. But I'm like, podcasts are my jam and I love listening to them. And I've learned so much. And I love applying the things that I'm listening. Like I'm hearing this and I'm like, I'm going to go execute this. And like, that's where I started finding like bit by bit, like all this different growth that I was like, man, the biggest question that people keep asking me is like, how did your parents be able to help you and your 2 sisters play college sports? Like, you don't see that very often,
right?
And
you don't.
Like, yeah. And that's like a huge question that I would get. And I'm like, there's so much I want to teach. Like, there's so much that I want to show. Like, there's so much I want to unveil, that they've done for me and my 2 sisters to be able to live out our dream, to where I started, thinking about it. And I had a couple girls that worked for me last year and they were kind of helping me come up with a name. One of them happened to be my sister. And she came up with When the Cleats Come Off. And I was like, so this could basically entail, like, what are your relationships with your athlete outside of the diamond? Like, what are you talking about outside of the field? What are you working on outside of the field? Because, one thing Dad would do so much with us is like, if we had a bad game, we would stay another 15 minutes and work on the thing that we sucked at.
Nice.
And it was like, that was literally, he just ingrained that into us. And like, again, that's not when the cleats are on. The cleats are off at that point.
Yep.
And we're going hard at the things that scare us. And that was kind of like, wow, I really like the background behind this quote. And I was like, we're going to do When the Cleats Come Off. Like, I love it.
It's such a great name.
Thanks. So many people are like, but wait, you interview people that are still playing the game. And I'm like, okay, yes. But that's not the point of when the cleats come off.
But they're not on the field. They're not on the field. Their cleats are off.
Right. Yes, exactly. The cleats are off. Now we're going to talk about what you're thinking about. And it's been so special because, like, I didn't imagine interviewing people like Sue Inquest or my role model, Caitlin Lowe. Like, literally, she was the athlete I wanted to be growing up. And, you know, Monica Abbott, we just had her on the podcast. Like, I didn't think of all these things happening. The nice thing about playing pro is that, like, I have connections now.
Yeah.
But it's been so fun to not only unveil my story and my sisters and I's journey, but also seeing that, like, hey, Delaney Spalding struggled with her mental game too. And she's Team USA's Olympian. And, you know, it's just so crazy. Like, so many kids are like, I'm in this bubble and, you know, it's just me struggling. I'm like, no, the best struggle. Like, you are not good unless you failed a ton. Mm-hmm. And, you know, being able to, when the cleats come off, ask these questions about, like, hey, you know, when you were in a rut, how did you get out of it? Or, you know, when you weren't starting, what did you do about it? Like, it was just incredible. It's just so cool to, like, unveil the athlete behind the athlete, and kind of see their journey and how their parents helped inspire them to become the best versions of them. And some of them, you know, their parents didn't even have a dabble in softball. They just happened to, you know people that could help them. And their parents were like, what do you want for dinner? Like, they don't care.
Yeah.
But I'm like, everybody's journey is so unique. And I feel like any episode that we've had, somebody can relate on some sort of level with these interviews and these recordings.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. Now, is there one guest where you were like, wow, I'm chatting with this person and I think I know who you might say?
Well, Caitlin Lowe.
Yes.
Like, yes. Okay. I texted my dad the morning of the interview. I'm like, I'm interviewing Caitlin today. He goes, don't you dare fangirl. He goes, don't you be a fangirl. And of course, at the beginning, I'm just like, so you were like the person I always looked up to. But I want to do that. I want to be real. Like, I really want to be myself.
Yep.
And she was that person. We literally, Dad and I would TiVo her slapping, TiVo her first step in the outfield. You know, TiVo, that whole replay thing in slow motion, that doesn't exist anymore, but like Dad and I always did. Like, she was it. And so it ended up being a much longer conversation than I thought, but it was so fun getting to know her and how freaking the same we were in so many ways. Like, my mind was being blown so many times. I was like, Dad, her dad was the same way as you. Like, it's just so cool. Like, she's probably the reason why I always went so hard.
Yeah.
Like, why I always, you know, broke my thumb diving into home, but not really meaning to, or getting hit in the face and still playing. Like, that's what Caitlin would do.
Yeah.
You know? So I think that was the coolest. I mean, Sue Inquist, but like, she's like the queen.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
she was incredible. Natasha Watley was so much fun. But yeah, Caitlin Lowe takes the cake for sure.
Nice. Yeah, that's how I felt like when I got to interview Kat Osterman.
Yeah.
I was like, when she agreed to do it, I was like, oh my God, I get to talk to Kat Osterman. Like, like, here, I'm a guy from Nova Scotia, Canada. And I'm, you know, as you said, fangirl, you know, over the fact that I get to talk to Kat. And
well, talk about somebody who's just so incredible at growing our game.
Yes.
Like, she's doing everything it takes to be able to make this game what it deserves to be.
100%.
So I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah.
I need her on my podcast. She's actually been one that I've been thinking about for a long period of time. And hopefully we can get in an interview before the Olympics to kind of prep for it. But,
and you talked to Danielle Laurie, and she was another amazing guest that I had. And you also interviewed Sam Fisher, who is probably my favorite guest that I've ever had because man,
when I interviewed her, sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay.
When I interviewed her, we competed against each other in the NPF, but we never had a conversation, and we ended that conversation and we're like, girl, I'm going to text you every week.
Yes.
Like, you are awesome.
She is amazing.
Yeah, she truly is.
Yeah.
She actually just interviewed me for hers. So
did you? Wicked.
Yeah. That was a really fun one. That was even more fun because we had already had our interview.
Yeah.
And so we get a lot deeper on her podcast for sure.
That's awesome. Just Sam's whole demeanor is just so fantastic. And
so chill, so real.
Yes. And you've interviewed Jade, which, you've seen her and Sam go back and forth with their video things. And I think they're one of a kind. Like,
I know.
It's so awesome.
Yes. Jade Hewitt, I interviewed her, but like, it was so fun to interview her because I had no idea she was an intern for my team, the Dallas Charge, when she was with us. Like, I thought she was like this professional photographer that they hired.
Get out of here.
No, she was interning.
What?
She literally interned for them and then ended up becoming who she is. And now taking photos for Team USA whenever they're out. Like, it's just incredible. Her story. I was so honored to have her on. She's like, who am I to be on your podcast? I'm like, no, you have no idea the impact we've had on this game.
Yeah.
She's on a freaking Topps card. Her photos are on Topps cards, and softball's never been on a Topps card. Like, it's just
exactly.
It's so fun being able to share other people's stories. It's the best.
100%. 100%. And that's like, if it wasn't for the pandemic, I probably wouldn't have started this podcast because I had the opportunity to work from home. And I was working from home and I was listening to podcasts and I was like, you know what? Like, I'm trying to find softball ones. And of course, the 7 innings have theirs and whatnot. But I was like, okay, well, there's nothing really for the men's game. And I was like, well, what if I can do one for the men's game, but also the women's game, which I love, and try to, work them both together, which I've been able to do. And it's worked out pretty well. I find, but
nobody's doing it. So kudos to you. That's awesome.
So actually I gotta ask you about the one guest that you got to interview, because I would love to talk to this guy, CJ Beatty.
CJ.
Man.
Yes. The softball and baseball motivator.
He pumps me up more than anybody, I think.
Yeah, he reminds me of Trent Shelton. Do you know who that is?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Trent Shelton, he just like goes on lives every once in a while and just spits absolute fire to where you just want to run through a brick wall every time you hear his voice.
Okay.
Like, I knew Trent Shelton and followed him based on like other entrepreneurial podcasts that I was listening to, and I got introduced to him. Then I was like, this CJ Beatty guy is literally Trent Shelton in our world. But yeah, he keeps it real.
I guess he does. He's so awesome. Like, just I loved having him at like launching his podcast at the beginning of the year, because like, obviously we don't really need motivation at the beginning of the year because we have our own, but it's kind of like that little kick in the butt that you need. Like, whenever you need a little, get out of your way, get out of your own way, go listen to CJ. Yep. 100%. So what's the future look like for Ashley Burkhardt Training? Any big plans or what?
Oh my gosh, probably too many big plans. I'm like that dreamer. I'm literally looking at my wall and there's probably 45 Post-it notes of things that I want to accomplish. What are some big ones? So we're actually, since we're getting married this year, we're looking at potentially building like a warehouse, but like not something like massive. I don't want to own a huge facility, but I do want my own space. So to be able to do lessons and, have an office, because right now I'm in a spare bedroom of an apartment. So just like building that. And also we were talking off the cuff before this about, having a podcast studio, and like the dream would be eventually, flying people in for interviews and, finding good sponsors, which we'll have to talk about that later because I have none yet except for myself. But yeah, like sponsorships for the podcast, just because I want it to reach a ton of people. Like and that's the thing, like, podcasting, it's like most of it's you're paying out of your own pocket. Yep. So I just want that podcast to grow, to be honest, because it's my favorite thing to do is interview and talk to just amazing people. This has been so much fun, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, your questions are awesome, especially the Artie question. But yeah, just growth of the podcast. And I'm actually launching a big course right before my wedding. It's going to be a 4-week hitting course to work on feel, posture, and just confidence as a hitter. I'm very, very excited about this because I want to be able to make it like a course that I launch, 2 or 3 times a year. And I'll be like hands-on with every athlete that joins. Don't even have a name for it yet, but that's something that I'm really excited to launch in June. Right along with, the Women's College World Series and then the Olympics coming up, like the hype around softball is going to be big.
Yeah.
So
then Athletes Unlimited.
Yeah, I know. Like it's
so awesome.
Jam-packed with softball. It's the best.
Yeah.
It's seriously, I literally watched Athletes Unlimited last year. I was like, get me on that freaking field. I am dying to play right now.
I became obsessed with it. After watching it last year, I was like, I love this. Like the whole format, everything. Sorry to cut you off on what you were going on about. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. But I'm obsessed too. That's where I got Sam on the podcast. I'm like, we need to talk about you on the pod.
Yeah.
Because she's a huge advocate for the game. But
yes.
Yeah. So honestly, like that course right now is like where my heart and soul is, because I want to make it great. And this will be the first round of many. But again, it'll only be like a 4-week course, and it's going to be jam-packed with activities to do to try to just like hone in on like who you are as a hitter. Because I notice like identity is a big thing, and some girls have the best swing in the world, but they don't believe in it. So I'm building a course around, here's how you can develop that confidence within yourself and find more feel, find more, connection and leg strength and all these different elements that make you just a complete hitter.
Right on. That's so good.
Thanks.
Before we go
again, I don't know the title yet. I wish I did.
Okay, but hey, when you figure it out, just tweet it.
Oh yeah, exactly. And I know you'll retweet it for me.
100%, I will.
Yeah.
So before we get on to this final, I have a thing I call player association at the end, where I'll list off some players or people in the game that you're familiar with, and you can talk about them. But before I get into that, I want to touch back on Athletes Unlimited for a second.
Yeah.
The draft the other night. How good is Aaliyah Andrews going to look in Athletes Unlimited?
Oh, I can't wait.
I know.
She's going to be so good. I know. So like AJ was a competitor I used to play against. And like, you're just like waiting for her to have the ESPN play, you know? And like in pro softball, most of the balls are going to the outfield.
Yep.
So it's going to be fun to watch for sure.
Like she's already had probably 6 or 7 ESPN or, Sports Center top 10. Yeah.
Yep.
Like she's just
fun to watch.
Yes. That's exactly it. She's so fun to watch. So yeah, that's probably my biggest thing I can't wait for this year in Athletes Unlimited is to watch Aaliyah play. So
yeah. And I just love the hype around the outfield. They never get the praise, I'm like, let's go.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Okay. On to player association. Like I said, I'm going to throw out a name to you, and you can say as little or as much about them as you like. Ready to go?
Oh man, it'll be fun. Sure.
All right, here we go. First one is Lexi Moore.
Oh my gosh. She is coming to my bachelorette party.
Awesome.
Oh my gosh. She is like literally my ride or die in college, other than Lily, of course, but like she has the biggest heart, has really influenced me and my love for just like growth. She was always the nerd, the bookworm, the one who was always like putting in work on her education. And I was like, man, like I want to be like Lexi. And she's just doing amazing things now. Wow. I was not ready for that name.
Hey, I do my research. I'm just throwing names
Lexi.
out.
Yes.
All right. Next on the list is Kelsey Kloss.
Kelsey. Okay. When I say the most selfless person in the world, I am not joking. Kelsey Kloss is that person.
Really?
Oh my gosh. My favorite days with the package deal was when Kelsey was on the trip. She is so genuine and loving. She's like literally, sometimes when you're the hype woman all the time, you need hype women. She's mine. Like she's just always there for me. And I hope she thinks the same of me because I just love her so much. And her sister actually goes to Notre Dame, which is right down the street. So awesome. I got to watch her sister play, and then I got to see her this season. Anytime I get to see Kelsey, I light up inside.
Awesome. Next is one of your past guests and your idol, Caitlin Lowe.
The dream. It's so weird that I have her number. Like that just blows me away. I try not to like flood her text too much, but that like, I would have never thought I would have a conversation with her. So I remember when I played against Arizona, she was in the dugout coaching. Like that was one of her first years coaching. Mm-hmm. And I remember her and Mike Andrea were like in the dugout. And I'm like, I'm going to show them who I am. Like they're going to remember me after this game. And I ended up hitting like, I think maybe 2 for 3, stolen base, a double, screaming double the outfield. Like I remember after that game, like the two of them kind of looked at me different, you know, and they were like, nice game. I was like, thanks.
Nice.
But that was like literally the coolest day of my life. But just that whole loving who she was and how she played. And then now like getting to be able to communicate with her. Again, Dad's going to be like, stop fangirling. But I am a fangirl of Caitlin Lowe and always will be.
Awesome. That's fantastic. All right. Next one on the list is Lily Fetcho.
Oh, Lil. Gosh, I'm going to cry talking about her. Man, that year was really hard when I had to coach her, but we are literally inseparable. She's always going to be my first call. I love that she's only 2 hours away from me, so I can see her whenever I want. There's no other person I'd want to be by my side on my wedding day than Lily Fetcho.
Fantastic.
We've been through a lot. Yeah.
Last one. You are pretty familiar with her, Christina Burkhardt.
Oh, hey, I know her. It's so funny. Actually, every Friday I send out like a newsletter to my my email list, and today's was like literally, if you could exemplify playing the game with the most respect possible, she does that. Like she goes all out, like no matter what. She is aggressive. She loves to steal bases. Like, I don't want to say she's a mini me, but like that's the funny thing. She broke my stolen base record in high school, and I still don't like that. Come
on, Christina.
But in all honesty, I think she's better than I ever was. Like I will say that till the day I die.
Really?
I think she's smart. She's so smart. She's the smartest outfielder. And I know, like we just talked about Aaliyah Andrews, but I'm telling you, like Christina Burkhardt can read balls like no other. Like she is just smart. She actually, her fielding percentage was 1,000 this year.
Get out of here.
No, that like she said that the other day, like we were out at dinner and she's like, I don't think I had an error this year. And we look it up and sure enough, she 1,000 in center field. Like it's just dumb. Yeah. She's better than me.
That's amazing. Fact. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I love watching her. I'm her biggest fan. Even though other people would argue this,
Now they can argue all they want. Ash, I got to thank you so much for coming on. So appreciate it. I wish you nothing but success, in everything you do, which I'm sure, you're going to have a ton of it. And I must say, you're not like everyone else, but you definitely fit the mold of an amazing guest on here. So thanks again.
Oh, that's the best compliment. Thank you so much. This was a blast. I feel like I have a new friend in the game and I love it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ash.
Thank you.
Take care.
I read the rules before I broke them. I broke the chains before they choked me out. Now I pay close attention, really learned the code. I learned to read the map before I hit the road.
Hey yo, I know you never heard this before, but I'd rather lose a fight than miss the war. And I ain't wishing competition or fishing for it. I'm just living in a system, conditions are poor. I've been lost in the rhythm and misinformed. Too many late nights hitting the liquor store. Too many bad decisions, half-ass attempts. No sweat, no fear, no blood, no tears. I go hard, and I ain't making up no excuse. I'm overdue, I don't do what I'm supposed to do. Cause if you think about it, man, we're supposed to lose. It ain't all picture perfect ocean views. No, I was a first-class rookie, taking out bullies in my all-black hoodie. Man of mystery, you know the history. Get it or forget it, cause poof, I'm out of here.
I read the rules before I broke them. I broke the chains before they choked me out. And I paid close attention, really learned the code. I learned to read the map before I hit the road.
What you say?
Nobody's gonna see me coming. Nobody's gonna hear a sound. No matter how hard they try, no stopping me since I found.
My inner ninja, my inner ninja, my inner ninja, my inner
I've been high and I've been real low. I've been beaten and broken, but I healed though. So many ups and downs, roughed up and clown. We all got problems, but we deal though. I'm trying to do better now, find my inner peace, learn my art form and find my energy. When my back's on the wall, I don't freeze up. Now I find my inner strength and I re-up. Here we go. I know I never been the smartest, the wisest, but I realize what it takes. Never dwell in the dark, cause the sun always rises, but gotta make it to the next day. It's a feeling that you get in your lungs when you run, but you're running out of air and your breath won't come.